Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CoinGeek Weekly live stream. I am your host, Mr. Kurt Wooker Jr., broadcasting live from sunny South Florida, where actually it's been thunderstorm too hot, like kind of all day today. So it may or may not be sunny South Florida on and off for the duration of the show. So if I suddenly disappear, we can blame the weather and do our best there. So our guest this week is going to be Lorien Gamaroff. You may know him as the CEO, founder, and probably a few other things over at Centbee. But he's also doing a bunch of really cool stuff. And he's also just kind of an OG Bitcoiner who's fun to talk to because he cares about the stuff that Bitcoiners used to care about when Bitcoin was still cool. So looking forward to having that chat with him. If you are watching live right this moment, or even if you're watching this in record, you could please like, subscribe, hit the alert bell so you know every time that we go live, so you are alerted and so that you can join us for our live comment, our troll box, as it were. I do this show live for a couple of reasons. A, I'm not super good at planning things, so if I had to plan and pre-record, I actually suck a lot more on the microphone when I have the opportunity to take a few takes. So my wife, who is a sort of an amateur filmmaker herself, we used to produce content, and she was always like, it would freak her out how much she'd be like, okay, and action, and I would just freeze. But I could go live on the air and basically never miss a beat. So that's reason one. Reason two is I really like the interactive nature of talking to you, the fans. So if you are blessed enough to catch this live, I really do want your questions, comments, blessings, cursings, gripes, and gropes here in the troll box so that we can interact with them. I want you to ask questions of me, and I'd like you to ask questions of Lorien, and of course you can ask questions about whatever else you like to, and usually if they're not going to be related to Lorien at all, we'll save them for like the last 3 to 5 minutes of the show, and I just kind of rapid fire sort of lightning round. So best I can do. If you have not yet, check my pinned post on x.com, which sounds like a porn site, and in some ways kind of is, but I wrote a little bit about SPV and what simplified payment verification actually is, and just a little bit on how it works. It's not a technical treatise by any means, but I do talk a little bit about why it doesn't exist in Bitcoin Core, like basically at all anymore, and why BSV, it continues to exist more and more progressively, and why it's a little more of a business decision and a technical implementation decision than it is a protocol thing. And this is in response to Luke Dashier Jr. or whatever, however he, it's not even his real name, it's a pseudonym. It's the name the CIA gave him. But anyways, he is very blunt in that he says that SPV simply doesn't exist. Satoshi was wrong. The white paper says one thing, but Bitcoin does another. And he's leaning on his own expertise as the evidence. Like, it doesn't exist in BTC, and therefore it doesn't exist in Bitcoin because #TrustMeBro. So thank you, Luke. You are always a delight for cannon fodder whenever I need someone to point out as the most extreme person on Bitcoin and cat recipes. So, Luke, you are a delight. Thank you. Oh, hi, Casey. Hi. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Casey being one of the most loyal viewers and watchers and listeners of the show. And what's up, G Golden? Thanks for coming to play. And truly, if you could share this across social media, let people know that we are indeed live. I appreciate it. Share on X, share on Facebook, share on Instagram, share on wherever else you got. Wherever you go, you could even text it to your aunt and say, "Dear Auntie, if you ever wanted to learn a little bit about Bitcoin, please learn about it from Kurt instead of from Michael Shaler or whoever else you might listen to on the topic." I also saw there was some commentary from Jack Mallers, the single fakest Bitcoiner, talking about how Craig's closet is too small, the closet from which he's broadcasting. And you know what I always say, Jack, who has the biggest closet in the world, you only really need a big closet if you got a really big secret in there. So just saying. Thank you, everybody, again. So we are going to cut to an ad to pay for this show because, well, somebody's got to pay for all my expensive haircuts. And this week it is Rock Wallet. Rock Wallet being the single best place to exchange BSV for other crypto nonsense out there in the universe. So if you want your ethers and your litecoins and your tethers and your whatevers, your BTC, I think Bitcoin Cash, a couple other things too, you can exchange those things all in the rock wallet ecosystem directly right there in the wallet. Or if you're one of those whales or the kind of guy that likes to wear suit pants to work, you can of course talk to their OTC desk, and they are delightful to use as well. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to come back. We're going to talk to Lorien about Centbee, a competing wallet. I don't know if he would like to also sponsor the show so we can talk about Centbee every week, but we can do that too. And then we'll kick into the Centbee Show, which is something that I wasn't sure I would love because Lorien's on a different continent and he's up to other things. But I actually started watching. It was like, well, damn, this is just good entertainment. So now I'm also a fan of his show. And that puts another thing on my calendar that I got to listen to because I like it. So we will cut to that, come back with Lorien and yada, yada, yada. Taking my breather, woosah. And we'll be right back. All righty, Mr. Lorien Gamaroff, how are you, sir?
I'm pretty good there, Kurt. For a second, I forgot I was watching the Kurt show. Good to be here. Thanks.
No, absolutely. So I alluded to a little bit in the introduction, but you've added broadcaster to your list of things that you do somewhat on the regular. And I don't know if you have experience doing this, but your show is it's a whole lot of fun. So when it was decided, oh, Lorien's going to be your guest, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I've been meaning to watch his show anyway. So I like watched a couple of episodes and I'm sitting there like really enjoying myself. So that was my first question is like, did you have a radio show in college or something? Because the whole thing comes across as a whole lot of fun.
No, I have to admit, Kurt, I was inspired, I think, by you. You're this very crystal clear voice in this little ecosystem called BSV. And I just thought, there's very little out there if somebody wants to come into BSV and try and understand it. And of course, I've got a wallet and I've got customers, and I don't put it out there and then hope everybody downloads it, because of course, when people look into crypto and they look into BSV, they just lump it all together as the same thing. And I realized there's such a big job of education out there, and you've been doing such a great job, and the people at the BSV Association have been doing such a good job. And I just thought the time has come. There's so much nonsense out there. When you started off, I thought you were being somewhat or maybe a little unkind to your sponsor, but what you were saying is true. There's just so much junk out there, and this whole mentality of trading and it's really taken away the value of Satoshi's Bitcoin. And so I just thought, well, this is it. We'll do it. We've got to educate our customers and our users and the world at large if we want more users, so we don't have to always explain ourselves, that BSV is not crypto. Right. And we've just got it going, and every week we hit it. We're learning along the way, trying to figure out this whole thing, and having a lot of fun as well. And I'm very glad that you're watching it and you're enjoying it. Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's very well done. I mean, and not only just, so there's one thing. There's the raw talent aspect, which like you and KG, is it KG? How does he pronounce his name? KG. So he's fun. It was really fun to meet him in London too. He's just a cool guy. So he's good to jam with. But for your chemistry is really good, and that's the first important ingredient. But the second thing that most people get wrong, at least at first, is your microphone stuff, the cameras, the lighting. Like there's a lot that actually goes into producing something that is like pleasing to listen to, both from the content. Like I would read this because I'm learning or I agree or whatever, but you've got the aesthetics of like the production quality aesthetic is really good. And so the fact that you've only been doing it for a short amount of time, that's very impressive. So kudos to you. You clearly did your research and did quite a good job like setting that up from a technical standpoint too. So that's amazing.
Yeah, well, look, it started off pretty rough. If you watch our first episodes, it's really rough. In fact, it still is kind of rough. But as with everything, it's a journey. You've got to dive in, and every time you do it, you learn more and you figure it out, and you research. Of course, you have to go and see how people are doing these things. I've always enjoyed your show. I think you're great, and the way that you manage to explain difficult concepts to people. So you got to take this seriously. The world is jam-packed with mediocrity out there, and you've got to try and rise above. And by putting in a little bit of effort and being consistent and diligent and working hard and having a goal, you eventually, you'll get there. Everybody starts off crap. And then the harder you work, if it's music, you're playing musical instrument, or if you are learning how to, learn a different language, you start rubbish. Nobody knows how to do anything. Yeah. We were born with no skills, and we work and we eventually craft a skill. So that's what it's about. Proof of work.
No, for sure. I always tell people, I read a lot of like entrepreneurship stuff. And one of the key things that you see really consistently is the first thing is to get really good at not quitting. Because you can watch your first attempts at a few things, be like, I'm not good at this. But you're absolutely right. As someone, I have a 5-week-old baby at home, and I can tell you, yes, indeed, like we do start out good at basically nothing. Like my new son is starting to figure out how to fart on his own, and it's been really it's been a blessing, let me tell you. So,
yeah, and parenting is exactly the same. Everybody's always wishing when they've got that little baby that it'll get easier. And I'm going to tell you now, Kurt, I have 4 sons, 3 of them are teenagers, and it doesn't get easier. But you know what happens? You get better, you get tougher.
Yeah. Love it. So, Lorien, actually, I would love to talk a little bit about your most recent episode where you're talking about RFK and BTC versus BSV and kind of like gold as an asset versus Bitcoin as an asset, this kind of thing. And this is actually something I've grappled with quite a bit, because sound money was the thing that got me into Bitcoin now 12, pushing 13 years ago now, which sounds like a lifetime ago. But this concept of Bitcoin as an asset to hold, I don't think is false. I do think it is overexpressed heavily in BTC. And then our counter narrative is like, well, you should spend it. It's designed to be used and this kind of thing. And I think the fact that we're bouncing off of each other in a way that is typically antagonistic, we're arguing with each other about, no, it's a hodl asset versus no, it's meant to be spent. But actually, in reality, I think both sides agree. I think the BTC people would agree that, yeah, you're supposed to spend it eventually after we've achieved some level of adoption in the future. And also, I think the people on our side need to agree, like, yes, it should also be something that you, like, just like money, you shouldn't spend all of your money, right? You should have some is saved, some is invested, some is locked up in businesses, and some is your petty cash. But what do you think about this conversation? Basically, what Donald Trump and RFK are saying is pretty similar in this like strategic reserve. The U.S. government needs to be holding Bitcoin now because, again, they believe that price is going to go up forever. Or I mean, I think it is lip service coming from both of those guys, but ultimately, that is the narrative. Do you think that there is a strategic place for Bitcoin as a reserve asset for nations, or is that are we too early, or is it crazy, or maybe it's the best idea ever? Let me hear your thoughts. You're the new Secretary of the Treasury, Lorien Gamaroff.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so when we're talking about Bitcoin, we always have to make it clear which Bitcoin we're talking about. And of course, at these conferences, RFK, Donald Trump, everybody talking about BTC. And so I'm the same as you. When Bitcoin came along, I mean, I wasn't at first interested in it as a sound money. For me, the digital cash system part of it is what grabbed me and has never let go. And so, I was working in a startup. I was trying to find payment systems for Africans to buy electricity, and they don't have bank accounts. There wasn't mobile money. So Bitcoin came along, and it was this perfect solution. And that's what has kept me alive and pursuing Satoshi's vision since then. And I never got caught up in this crypto craze. But the thing about Bitcoin is, though, that it has that notion of sound money, because if it is a something that is in a fixed supply, let's just start there, and it is something that is valuable, it is something that is useful to us, then this is just the law of nature. If something is useful, then it's valuable to us. And if it's in limited supply, well, then you have a price dynamic. When the demand is high, then the price goes up, and when the supply goes down, the price goes down. So the whole thing about the sound money aspect, I actually believe in the sound money aspect of Bitcoin, Satoshi's Bitcoin. So I'm going to start off with Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin, and remember, his was a massively scalable, low-cost ledger that could be used for all sorts of things that we're discovering now with entrepreneurs in the ecosystem today.
Yeah.
So this ledger, but Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin, the ledger is a useful thing that we need to use in our businesses to do things, and we need the token. Now, the token is in limited supply. So depending on how useful that ledger is, we're going to be bidding up that price of that token if we want to get the token so that we can write information to the ledger, because that serves a purpose. So yes, I actually do think Bitcoin is sound money in the same way that gold is a useful thing that we can use for jewelry and all that, and dentistry and whatever. It's also in limited supply. And so if we need to use it for something and it's limited supply, we can bid that price up. So I'm in agreement. And you're right. When Donald Trump talks about Bitcoin and RFK talks about Bitcoin reserves, you think to yourself, yes, it would be nice. I mean, as a business, I have a Bitcoin reserve. I have a BSV reserve. I need to keep Bitcoin because my customers are buying Bitcoin off me, or, and there's a thing going on. And so I need a reserve. So you can see now, by a business having a reserve, it's because I'm using it in a day-to-day way and using it in my business. But now we go over to BTC, which is what everybody's talking about, and they have detached themselves from the idea of the utility factor. And they are just going and saying, well, look, it's limited in supply. And of course, they're going to say it's secure. They always talk about security, and it's decentralized, so it can't be manipulated. So they're using all these very good aspects, and they've left the most important aspect behind, which is the utility, the use case. So absolutely, if RFK and Donald Trump were up there saying, vote for me and I'll get a reserve of BSV because we're going to be now using BSV to whatever, run the administration and do whatever. Okay, you guys have got a good argument there. But of course, BTC have no clue about utility, and it shows you that there's a lot of very smart people out there who have very little understanding about, I would say, basic economics.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. It's funny because people will say, and I noticed the number of people from the Bitcoin, the core people, the Bitcoin Magazine folks, and these kind of guys. A lot of people were very excited to have presidential candidates at the show, and even David Bailey, the CEO of Bitcoin Magazine, has been essentially licking photos of Donald Trump on the internet for the last month and a half or so, and like that's I get it. It would be exciting to meet former president and this kind of thing. Like you're entering the upper echelons of society, and that's exciting for some people. But the funny thing to me is that there were a lot of critics, including myself, who pointed out, when you listen to Donald Trump talk about something that you're an expert in, something that you understand, like you work in this space and all these things, and you realize, wow, he doesn't really know what he's talking about on this subject. And it starts to become a little bit apparent, like, oh, okay, well, I can tell he read the pamphlet, and that's fine. But I think it's funny that when people notice this, they realize, I wonder how many other things he's talking about where he doesn't really know anything other than the printout that his aide gave him before, 2 days before, to do his homework. But I'm wondering, what would that look like? Who do you think is actually advising him, for one? Like, is it Michael Saylor or whoever else? Because I think that's obviously the influence that this is coming from. But what do you think that looks like? What do you think the private conversations look like in campaign staffers? I'm sure Biden and Harris both have somebody in their administration that also is tugging on their ear a little bit. And this actually is the thing that worries me about it, is like, well, it's bad information in, bad information. It just like it becomes a bigger and bigger problem over time. But what do you think those conversations look like? Are they looking for an angle to actually do something disruptive, or do you think they just it's a campaign point. It's something to talk about. It's something that'll ingratiate me to some, subset of voters. What do you think? What's your gut tell you?
Well, I want to start off the answer by talking to your first point, where you said that when you know something and you understand a topic, and then you go on to the media or you hear a politician speaking about that thing, and you realize this guy's talking a lot of junk, that you can imagine that's probably most of mass media. If you find a medical expert and they're talking medical stuff on the news, you'll probably find the guys, chuckling there and saying what fools, they have no idea what they're talking about. I think that this is just the state of the world we live in, where the mass media is not tuned to truth or information. It's tuned to what grabs audiences and what appeals to people. Yep. That's mass media is the same as mass food, like McDonald's. It's not about high culture, craft food. It's about what is the lowest common denominator that'll serve the largest number of people, and that's the media. The media is the same as a McDonald's, and not to go on about McDonald's, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally fair.
Yes. So now you're saying, well, who's advising these guys? Well, look at all the mainstream crypto people on the planet, the biggest names. Every single person is talking about BTC as this digital asset, this permissionless, unconfiscatable, uncensorable, blah blah blah. Everybody from the guys who all run all the exchanges, even the celebrities, Max Kaiser, he's famous for many years being this contrarian. Nobody understands it. Do you know? I'll tell you who understands Bitcoin more than Satoshi Nakamoto. When I say Bitcoin, I mean BTC. Is Peter Schiff. If you want to hear somebody who understands BTC, listen to Peter Schiff, and you're going to he nails it. And everyone looks at him and calls him a boomer and a no coiner. And what does he know? He's just shilling his gold bags, right? Yep. So this is the problem, that Donald Trump is listening to the experts. He's listening to all the mainstream pundits, everybody who's in the news, the MSNBCs, the CNBCs, whatever, whoever's pumping the cryptos, that's who he's listening to. And so this is the problem. We live in a world with this major information asymmetry. And unfortunately, the truth, nobody, and this is probably true again for a wide array of topics, people don't want the truth. They want which is beneficial or expeditious, or something that's going to serve them, or feels nice or tastes nice, or
make me feel good for 3 minutes, please.
So we just have a problem in the world where nobody gets it. Nobody understands Bitcoin, and they've gone for the hype, the exciting thing, the Lambos. That's the state of the world we live in.
Yeah, it's been said. I don't know if Ronald Reagan said it first, but I always think of Reagan, and I don't want to make the show we've been talking about politics for 20 minutes now, but he said all real change starts at the dinner table. Meaning, the things that actually matter are the people that you live with. So you can first influence your family, and and from that can arise everything else, right? So if you raise, in your case, 4 good sons, well, that can become exponential over the course of a generation. Maybe they have 4 sons each, and all of a sudden there's 20 handsome, capable, difficult to confuse Gamaroffs marching around the world, and that makes the world at least 20 people better, right? So that's conceptually how this stuff works. But it seems like as a culture we've been in this kind of backslide on a whole bunch of things. I don't want to just criticize modernism and say everything. I do a technology show. I love futurism and that kind of thing, but ultimately it feels like in a lot of ways we're losing important cultural battles, including in this tech right here. Like the way that Bitcoin is perceived by the masses, I think is clearly and objectively wrong. I think it can be explained to a rational person inside of an hour how wrong it is, but for some reason we're sort of losing this narrative battle to the McDonald's version of thing. Like I can tell people, like, look, this steak or this seafood or this, delicious salad over here is objectively better in all these ways, but people still just want to go get a Big Mac because, well, it's $4 and it takes 3 minutes, and that's the kind of person I am, economically and nutritionally and all these other things. How do we start to take back ground? Is there a way that we can start to explain to people, to spin the analogy back into Bitcoin? How can we get people to see, hey guys, there's a major problem in payments, in cross-border remittance, in data, identity solutions and data integrity. All these things are combined to make a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity that nobody's working on, or almost, statistically, it's nobody working on it. And whoever figures it out first really could be the next most wealthy person, after Elon Musk has retired or died or whatever. Like, there's going to be a new wealthiest person on earth at some point, and it could be the person that figures out that, hey, a distributed timestamp server that gives the world a global apolitical cash is that opportunity. How do we start to carve that ground back, Lorien? I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, you said starting off at the dinner table, and that's right. In your community, and of course, just going out there and doing whatever you can. And you and I have both decided we're going to use YouTube, which everybody has access to. And it's amazing how a bit of information can spread like wildfire. And that's all we're trying to do, is just trying to put information out there and spread ideas. That's the best you can hope for. Although you then went on to, how do you then build a system, or how do you then show the world that there is this fantastic system that is cheap and is amazing and all that? How do you do that? Well, I'm afraid there's no easy answer to that. The only way you can do that is just like with every single other business out there, is try and do your best to compete with somebody else. Try and find something you can add of value that can pick up a few customers and make them happy, and then they can share with their friends. And maybe you can be innovative and you can invent a new way of doing something, or be cleverer with the tools that we have. I mean, I use a lot of AI generation. KG does a lot of AI generation for our Twitter posts, and AI really is just such a wonderful tool. I mean, what a time to be alive when you can, visualize anything and it appears in front of you in seconds.
Yeah,
so
absurd.
We have the tools, we've got the internet, we've got YouTube, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to be innovative. You have to be creative, and you have to work. You've got to get up and you've got to go and do it every single day, and start off rubbish, but eventually acquire the skills and the relationships. So, I mean, what you're explaining, what you described, is exactly what Centbee is. I've got a mobile wallet that I think really is very competitive. It kills everything in Africa in terms of cost, because BSV transactions are tiny, tiny, tiny. The most popular apps on this continent, M-Pesa, Airtel, Momo, those apps are literally 1,000 times more expensive. That's actually the numbers we're talking about.
Wow.
So the value is there, but I can't just build it and they will come. I've tried that. Well, actually, I've had some success in Nigeria. Unfortunately, Nigeria is just regulations and stuff is a bit hectic there. But I mean, I'm breaking ground, but it's taken 6-7 years. And it wasn't just building a product. I've traveled the world, but a lot across Africa, speaking at conferences and engaging policymakers and businesses. It's been a crazy 7 years, a hard 7 years of trying to lay the groundwork. I was very fortunate because I got involved with Bitcoin and blockchain almost in the very beginning and became kind of the kind of Africa expert. And so got invited to speak at all these conferences and workshops and seminars and exco meetings and stuff. So that was cool. But even in spite of all that, the message is drowned out with crypto. So we actually have a terrible headwind against us. We could be building these wonderful products. And I know Gorilla Pool, you guys have got some great products there, amazing stuff. And you would think that somebody would notice it and say, oh, hang on, that's rather useful and valuable, let's dive in. But they can't, because they've got this veil of crypto over them. And as soon as they look at you, they're going to say, okay, another crypto miner, there's 1 million of them out there making lots of money. What are you guys doing? So we have the same problem everyone else has had for all eternity, is try and get attention in a cluttered world, a crowded, noisy world, by being more innovative and cleverer and more creative than the next guy. But we now have this monster that's just sucking the life out of Bitcoin. The crypto is a terrible cancer, and unfortunately, we can't speak people down from the ledge. We can't slap them awake and say, guys, get that crypto. It's just pixie dust in your pockets. It's going to evaporate tomorrow, the next day, one day. We don't know. How long are you willing to stick around? But this is the issue. They are drunk. They have drunk the Kool-Aid, and the Kool-Aid is in their brains and is fluffing up their common sense. So we might just have to, and I've been through this before. My first startup was in 1998. It was this online startup. It was so exciting at that time, 98, 99, 2000. I thought I was going to be the next in those days, Mark Andreessen or something. And then, of course, the dot-com crash nailed everybody. And it was a shock. But of course, the ecosystem grew out of that. The actual value started, emerging, and people started correcting their sort of got their vision and how things would turn out. So we're in that cycle. We're in the crypto phase of this cycle, and I just hope it ends sooner rather than later, because it's really put a great anchor on companies, BSV companies, who could be bringing so much value to the world today.
No, absolutely. That's it's sobering, frankly. I mean, the whole thing about it is just such a, I don't know. I like your example about, the dot-com bubble and that era when it felt like, oh, everybody's getting rich. I mean, and basically everybody got rich by accident in the late 90s, much the same way as people got rich by accident, a few times now in the crypto space. I think 2017 and 2021 were big watershed years for, I don't know, my friend told me to buy this dog coin, and and I paid off my house with it. So it's it is exciting, and it's really, really hard to explain to somebody why they're foolish, but also made absurd money on an idea. So I think, coming from where you're coming from as a service provider, or you're a bit of infrastructure in this space. Also, maybe relevant that you're from a BRICS nation, and there's a lot of discussion about sort of de-dollarization and some of these things too, where, hey, what is the center of technology and culture and power and money and economics and all these, like, where is that going to be over the next 50 years? I think there's a lot of people predicting that it will not be the United States. And you're in South Africa, which is one of the major players in this sort of BRICS coalition of, hey, we really think it's going to be China and Russia and these people, which I don't really agree with. I think there's a major trust problem with places like Russia and China that people aren't going to get over very easily. But I've been wrong before. What do you think things look like from an economic standpoint, like big macroeconomic picture? What are your thoughts on maybe BRICS in general? How does Bitcoin play into these kind of things? And then where does Centbee fit into? Hey, all of a sudden the dollar has collapsed, or all these things. Are you preparing for this rapid? Hey, we got the first BRICS dollar token available on Centbee, or what are your thoughts on that kind of thing?
Yeah, so leaving the economics and the foreign stuff aside, I'm not really an expert on that, but I'll definitely speak to the Bitcoin side of things. And of course, everybody is always thinking, and since the beginning, that Bitcoin was just such a perfect solution for the African continent. This idea of Bitcoin rising in Africa, and I was bitten by that bug. I thought, well, I'm African, and I got into Bitcoin early, and I saw the vision, and I have been fighting that vision for 7 years now. And again, unfortunately, the whole idea of crypto has hampered that vision. Because what we have now in South Africa, and which is kind of unique in the rest of the world, there's not many countries who have now got a proper licensing regimen for companies who want to be able to offer crypto services. They call them crypto asset service providers. And so at least South Africa is looking at creating a licensing model that companies can then not be under the radar and all that. But that's not, unfortunately, because we have more enlightened policymakers than the rest of the world. The simple fact is that South Africa, as many countries have been, was put on the grey listing, which is this, FATF regulatory body listing of countries that are a little bit dodgy and need to fix up their problems before they're worth investing in and that. Sure. So South Africa was forced to get over the line and say, all right, what's crypto and what's going on? What are you guys doing here? Okay, let's assess your businesses. Let's study what you're doing. Let's check all the bits and pieces that make up the business and see what your risk is. And let's see if you're ticking all the boxes in terms of anti-money laundering and all that kind of thing. And then we're going to decide which companies we give a license to. And if you haven't got your license, sorry, you can't operate. So at least what's happened now in South Africa, because of that grey listing, the government and they were forced to now, and it wasn't because of crypto. Of course, our banks and all that are that was the problem. It wasn't crypto that got us on the grey list in the first place. Mm-hmm. But of course, crypto is now an issue around the world. Yep. So South Africa has now moved into that place where we have licenses, and that's really great, because we are now seeing companies that are regulated. Now, I'm not a big fan of regulation. I don't think regulation solves all the problems, but at least it's kind of at this stage creating an awareness and a model and a framework so that companies can come in and try and start acting like businesses and not just fly by night, scam, quick job. That's the whole thing. And that really, the whole scammer mentality is just throughout crypto. Even in a non-custodial wallet, users people will try and scam a user and social engineer them and all that sort of thing. And so it's a real problem with scammers. And so what we're seeing, of course, now in South Africa are these legit businesses coming out and trying to offer crypto assets. Of course, most of them, if not all of them, are not thinking of payments. The only one is Centbee that's thinking about payments that I can think of. Of course, there is a Lightning sort of POC running at the moment, but we all know how that's going to end. But so that's what we have, and now because the rest of the continent is not much better shape than South Africa. Well, hopefully those countries, and of course this happens. South Africa is the sort of superpower on the continent, South Africa, and so what happens in South Africa generally sort of trickles over into the other countries. Nigeria right now has, the regulators are coming down really hard. There was that story about the guy from Binance, the CFO, whatever it was. And so, there's pressure now on these crypto companies and pressure on these governments to clean up house, and crypto naturally gets, sucked into that. And so it could be that we're going to start seeing more of that happen across the continent. Now, that's not necessarily good for the continent, because now it's going to make people think, and this is the problem with regulation, is that if a company is regulated and has a license, that what they're doing is safe.
Now, they're the good guys.
They're the good guys. And so we have, most of these companies offering, staking services or, just trading services or, something like that. And it's making people really think, and, this is the problems with exchanges, that this is a legitimate industry and sort of the same as buying stocks in companies. The risks are negligible, because this is what the mainstream seems. If Trump is talking about Bitcoin, and then it's surely now we've moved into this legitimate area where crypto is a sensible part of your investment portfolio. I mean, that's the thinking that's now growing. So unfortunately, I actually see the reverse happening, where more and more people now are going to be able to start putting money into these crypto products. And when the whole thing, like I said, we don't know the future, but it doesn't seem that this thing can last much longer, this thing built on sand, this crypto thing. So what might happen is that all these desperate Africans across the continent and in emerging economies, they're trying to put a little bit of money away. Normally they would, start building a house or doing something sensible with that money. Now they're putting it into crypto, and they could just be wiped out in an instant. And so it might just be that crypto, becomes the most, hated thing one day. And BSV, it just has to try and distance itself away from it. And part of not being on exchanges it hurts us when we have to source BSV because we've got to find it. But not having a BSV on an exchange is a very good thing. The less people who can speculate on BSV right now, the better.
Yeah, I mean it's a good point, and a whole bunch of good points, and I struggle with it too because I'm a little bit, the people in my life, I pal around with a lot of people. I'm a coach at my gym. I'm active at church, so I have these like dozens or hundreds of people that kind of vaguely know what I do. And there's this, oh, Kurt's the crypto guy or something, and so I have to deal with a lot of having these discussions. They're like, oh man, well, you must be really excited about whatever the thing of the week is, right? I'm always like, yeah, no, not really. I think that's a scam, or the person involved in that thing is somebody I've written negatively about for years and that kind of thing. And they're always a little bit like, yeah, but wait, why isn't it exciting if this thing is blowing up? And I always have to tell people like, hey, when you see the Cardano people or something are out in Southeast Asia, they're in like rural Vietnam explaining to people why they need to hold the ADA token or something. It's like we're running out of your next greatest fool if we're out in the rice fields trying to get people to buy our tokens. But and I feel the same way about Africa. It's like all of a sudden Africa's been this big place to speculate, and it's worrisome. Like if we've already got Larry Fink to buy in, like BlackRock is already in, and so I don't know who. Frankly, I don't know if there even is a bigger company. I think we basically have to go to like government, like sovereign wealth reserves in order to get bigger pockets. But yeah, it is. It's just it's a crazy thing, and just being in the space, being like a wallet provider like yourself, like we're kind of similar in that we both provide service to a niche economy, and that we want people to have tooling. Like, hey, build a really cool business. Here's some APIs and here's some tools. Like, we'd love to help you with your startup and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's just such a push. You feel like you're in the middle of a race and you can't quite see the finish line yet, but you know it's there and you've got the fuel. But man, it's been a journey. So I think we're going to take a few questions. We actually have like 10 people that wanted to ask a few things of you, Lorien. So Mr. Vidal, if you could bring the questions here. Ketones, not glucose. My keto my keto loyal audience. Is South Africa increasing the retail use or use cases of BSV for peer-to-peer electronic cash transactions? I think I know the answer to this because last time I had you on the show, I was very impressed with how much you had made some inroads in this regard. But yeah, let us know like what is Centbee up to on the ground, a very practical like user standpoint.
Yes, I mean the question is South Africa increasing the retail uses of BSV? So I'll tell you this much: there is probably maybe as many BSV as that can fit in this room in this entire country, but that's just the ratio, right? We're about a tenth of a percent of the world's population. So in terms of retail adoption, of course, there isn't any retail adoption of crypto. There is, as I said, a POC with Lightning happening here, but it's not widespread, and it's a single, store franchise and only a few stores. And the problem is that trying to get retailers to accept new payment methods is a very difficult thing. And it's not just a crypto problem. There's lots of payment companies out there that would love to integrate into merchants, especially these big box retailers or something. But the retailers, for them, it's a pain integrating payment services. And normally they use a merchant payment integrator. And then what will happen is that integrator will have a few payment options, normally, cards, and maybe a few QR codes or something like that. So it's actually very difficult to get into a store. Yes, you can go and find the mom and pops, and you can spend a lot of money walking and hitting them and getting them involved, and maybe putting a little console on the counter. But it's very hard to get merchants to integrate new payments. The second thing is what will motivate them is customer demand. If 50 million customers come into your store and say, please, can we pay with BSV, you can be sure they'll make it happen. But if nobody's asking for BSV, then of course they're not even going to talk to you. So the thing about Centbee is that I realized that pretty quickly. I mean, as I said, Centbee's been around for 7 years, and we've tried all that. We tried to even build a BSV point of sale, do all that sort of thing. No one's taking it. So the next best thing, though, is then where you can deliver digital products to the mobile device. And then that's a whole different game. It's so easy. And people have been able to buy digital gift cards and things with crypto for a decade, Bitrefill and all that. They've been around forever. So that's just the easiest model, where if you can go and integrate with a few gift card aggregators, it turns out then you can cover a large part of the world. Centbee recently, we used to have a whole lot of products in Centbee. Unfortunately, we just had to downsize slightly. We're moving on to a new payment aggregator, and we'll be able to bundle a whole lot more soon in the next coming weeks. But that's the best model. If you want somebody to be able to use their BSV right now at their local store, whether it's a Gap or in the UK, Tesco or McDonald's or wherever, then the best thing is to do a digital gift card. And if the experience can be fairly quick, where the user can almost be in the checkout and be able to buy an amount, then that's great. So you have to find those aggregators who can deliver products at that pace. And then you've got a very effective payment system, because at the checkout, you can punch in how much you want to spend with BSV. You can get the coupon or whatever it is that gets delivered, present that to the cash out, and then they can make the payment. They don't know it's BSV. They're seeing their in-store value gift card, punches into the system, works great. And that's the best thing. So I'm going to say that that's the best model that we have right now. It's a very hard process getting merchants to accept new payments.
No, for sure. And that's, I think that's such good advice, because it's something, you're right. I do that myself. I use a few gift card things because I'm in the Bitcoin space. I get a lot of random, like, hey, can I pay you in whatever? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. You don't say no to money if that's all the money they've got. But then, yeah, I'm always a little bit like, okay, now how do I do anything with this? Because I'm not really interested in, being a super trader or whatever. So another question here from JP saying, will we be able to purchase in Canada soon? Got our
yes,
neighbors
absolutely.
to the north.
No, we used to have a ton of places available in Canada. As I said, we've moved on away from the other one, but look again in I'm going to say by the 1st of September, there should be a whole lot of stuff in Canada.
And if I recall, last time you were on, you had like a voucher system, essentially, where you would buy a voucher retail, and then you could exchange that for coins, or like in or out, as I recall. Is that the system that you're talking about?
No, that would just be, if you want to go shop at a Canadian retailer or something, and you can go and
doing
buy
the gift card thing. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we did have a demo once where we worked with, what was that ATM at that one CoinGeek conference, and you could send your BSV to that ATM and get euros out. I don't know if you remember that one. It was in London. It was before the whole COVID thing.
That 2020. I think it was 2020. Yeah. I
Yes,
do recall. I don't remember the name of it, but I remember the demo. So good stuff. Let's man, I can't believe we only have about 10 minutes left here in the show. Nelson asking, is it true bald guys are smarter?
Yes, it is.
100%. Yeah. So actually, which reminds me, I've been asking lately, first of all, how often are hot dogs consumed in South Africa? And if you were to order one, what is the right way? Like, what do you get on your hot dog, Lorien?
I guess it's hot dogs are hot dogs, right? You're going to have some, we call it tomato sauce, but you call it ketchup, mustard, onions, bring it all. Some chilies.
All right. Sounds great. All right. Beautiful. We're going to create a mural of people's answers for this. So anything you wish I would have asked you, or anything you want to leave us with before we get to the end of the show? We'll take a few more questions too, but is there any big idea you'd like to leave us with, Lorien?
Well, you did say I can share the Centbee with everybody. Centbee is what I think of as Satoshi's wallet. Satoshi thought about digital cash, and he wanted digital cash for the common person in the street to be able to make micropayments for small value items. Here across Africa, we have people on the side of the road selling, a few things, a bit of fruit here and there, making micropayments for everything. And Satoshi, what he envisioned was that Bitcoin would be used as cash for day-to-day casual transactions. And so that whole spirit of payments has just I've tried to embody inside Centbee. It's a slightly different wallet. I'm trying to make it more for the kind of Gen Z crowd. What's very important is that you can chat to your friends and you can have groups and split bills, and do payment requests and shop around the world. So it's trying to just be a mobile money wallet for the kind of young person who wants to top up their phone with data or get Uber. I think that Centbee is a really great option for that. My kids use it. That's where they get their allowance sent to Centbee.
Nice.
And it works really great. It is a little rough around the edges. We do have a small team. Of course, we've been around for a long time, but it's quite a hard job building out a fully fledged payment app and system.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
we think we've done okay with the staff that we have and the people we have here. And so it's been really fun. So check it out. Follow us on Twitter if you can, at Centbee. That's our Twitter our X profile. And follow the Centbee Show. And it's a show that speaks about Satoshi's Bitcoin, just like this show. And Kurt, I'm hoping that you can come onto the Centbee Show and you can speak to our
I would love to.
And,
please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we'd love to have you. In fact, I'm going to make that announcement. We're going to have our first guest on the show, and it's Brett Banfi from the Bitcoin Association. Nice. He's going to be coming on the next week after next. This show that's coming up is about Max Kaiser. So if you guys know about Max Kaiser, we just tear down his comments at the Bitcoin Nashville conference. So be sure to check it out.
Yeah. Wonderful. All right, Mr. Vidal, let's bring up a couple more questions for Lorien, and then we'll let him get on with his evening. When integration with money, are you aware of the money token? It's sort of a rock wallet side project, I think is probably the best way to put it initially, but they intend to be like the stable coin for the internet. What are your thoughts? Have you looked into it much?
Absolutely, we've looked into it, and we know the guys, and we want to integrate money into Centbee Wallet. So that will become probably, well, not at the moment. Of course, what we want to do is ensure that money is available on the BSV blockchain. So when it becomes available on the BSV blockchain, money is going to be the stable coin that we integrate. We very much are a purist company. We think of Bitcoin as cash. But of course, having stability when it comes to your money in your wallet, if you can switch in and out of a stable coin, it just makes so much sense. So we're rooting for those guys. We think it's a great idea, and we'd love to see stable coins on Centbee. On BSV.
Yeah. Amen. All righty. Mr. Vidal, we got any more, or should we let Mr. Lorien get on with his evening? Is Centbee a good option for cold storage? This is a good question. I get a lot of people asking how to do cold storage, and I think Centbee probably is, given that you get your passphrase. If you're good at that kind of thing, I would say yes. But what's your opinion?
Yeah, it's still Centbee is very traditional. Remember, it's been around for a long time, and we built it with this idea. It was non-custodial. You keep your phrase and your PIN. And that combines to form your seed for your wallet in that BIP39 process. So what you can do on Centbee, if you do want to create a cold wallet, is you create a wallet, and then you go to the receive screen, and you'll see a QR code. That's your current receive address. What you can do is you can print that out, save it somewhere, and then reset your wallet, your Centbee wallet. And obviously, you keep your 12 words and PIN from the other wallet. And then you can create a hot wallet on your Centbee wallet. And then what you can do is whenever you want to deposit money into your cold wallet, you just go and scan the QR code from the first wallet. And if you ever want to go and spend that money that's in your cold wallet, well, you just reset your Centbee wallet again, put the old passphrase in, and your coins will come back, and you can use them. And then you reset it again.
Easy peasy.
Hot wallet. Easy peasy.
All right, cool. All right, one more question for Lorien, then we'll let you go. It's a long one. All right. Could you use the BSV blockchain to know that someone sending you periodic messages or questions was the same identity, even though using a pseudonym.
Yes, because of the
Yeah.
keys, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's public
Yeah.
key cryptography. This is a solved problem. So, all right. Beautiful. Lorien, thank you again. It's an honor. Let's DM. Let's figure out a time for me to come on and be on the Centbee Show. I would be honored. And be well. Blessings to you and your family.
Thanks, Kurt, and same to you. Cheers.
All right. Take care. All right. So I'm going to wet my whistle a little bit. We're going to cut to the meme of the week. We'll be right back.
And now it's time for the meme of the week.
Well, there's several different things one could say.
Oh Lord. All right. We also have to do the comment of the show, which I had failed to mention previously. Thanks to the Champions TCG folks, they do give away 1 pack a week via Alex Vidal at Costly Signals on X. So please give him a follow. I think I'm going to talk about it with Alex in private, in our private chat here real quick. We will choose a... There it is. When integration with money. So I'm super excited about money, actually. To have a easily usable and liquid, scalable stablecoin, really big deal. It's something that basically all the other blockchains have. They use it for some malfeasances in a lot of cases, but honestly, it's a key thing. You got to have a stable coin in order to conduct all kinds of business. So let's take like 1 or 2 more questions for me personally, and then we're going to try to wrap this up maybe right on time. It would be weird if we actually finish a show on time, because that's the way I do things. If it's useful, it's valuable. If it's useless, it's worthless. I like that. I don't know if that's a famous quote, but it certainly rings true to me. So I agree, Mr. Wu Tao, I think South American friend of Asian origin. G Golden, is there an appeal from Craig or not? Been gone from the space for a while, and I'm getting conflicting information. So the answer, the short answer is yes, there is an appeal. The longer answer is unclear whether or not it is accepted. So the way that appeals work is it's not a guarantee that you get your appeal accepted. So you need to essentially apply for appeal. And the way that Craig did it, he went directly to, and this is not unorthodox, but it's the way he did it, is he sent his appeal to the attorneys of the other side. So this would be the folks at Bird and Bird, who you'll recall also helped the expert witness prepare the report on the forensics. But so he sends it to Bird and Bird. Bird and Bird gives an acceptance, like, yes, we've received your thing, but it still needs to go to some panel of people who wear wigs, because it's the UK, to say, will we accept this appeal based on this situation? And if the answer is yes, then it'll go to appeal. So Craig has filed in a way that is appropriate to file, but we do not yet know if it's accepted, which is why there's a lot of speculation on, did it happen or not? So all that to say, yes, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk is the best I can do. So let's take 1 more from Zap, and then we will cut her loose. When the Trump and Kennedy are talking Bitcoin, do you think they know the difference between BTC and BSV? Also, the advancement in technology that is available, Congress and the Republicans do. So I would bet that Donald Trump does not. So I have a little bit of proximity to some people that have the ear of Trump, and it's just because I know a lot of people in the space. And I'll tell you what, a guy like Donald Trump, this is very much his managerial style, is that he has his experts on the on the things, and he completely trusts them to do their job because he's a very much like shoot from the hip. This is how I feel, and I'm just going to tell you what I think at the moment. And I think he's interesting in that I think Donald Trump is both honest and authentic in that he's saying what he believes at the time that he says it, but that also makes it that like, why is he contradicting himself on this issue? And it's like, well, he feels differently now, and so. So Donald is not the kind of person that's going to drill in deeply on a subject that he doesn't personally care deeply about. And I don't think he actually cares deeply about Bitcoin. So I would guess with like 99% certainty, he's just kind of got a Bitcoin guy that gives him a Bitcoin pamphlet and he speaks to the talking points on the Bitcoin pamphlet. RFK is a very different animal in this regard. RFK is a very successful trial attorney. He's a litigation attorney. And what he does is the most negative way to say it is that he's an ambulance chaser. But what he does is he takes personal injury claims and puts them to trial. Now he takes particularly complex ones. What a lot of people don't know about RFK is he's one of the most successful trial attorneys of all time in this kind of litigation. And the people who he's been successful against are big pharma. So, which is kind of where his sort of anti-vax vibe comes from. Now, he's talked a lot about the COVID vaccine stuff over the last couple of years, but if you've studied RFK for a number of previous years, which I actually have, he has been an anti-vax sort of advocate type. He's got a couple of books about this topic from probably the last 10 years, maybe a little bit more. And that's because he is in a situation where he has sued Big Pharma for a number of their big problems, like when they have actually, through some sort of gross negligence or he would argue malice in some cases, just simply put out a drug that was going to be harmful, that they knew would be harmful, and he has stuck it to them really hard. And so he is a details guy. So I'd be willing to bet that RFK, before taking a position on Bitcoin at all, probably did his due diligence on like, hey, yeah, the mainstream Bitcoin narrative is interesting. What's the other is there another Bitcoin narrative? He likely would have looked into is there a rebel alliance in the Bitcoin space that is has been censored, has been wronged in some way, and that's very much where BSV would come up if he's going to find it at all. So I don't know, but I would guess very much that RFK probably has a significantly more sophisticated understanding of Bitcoin and blockchain technology, and probably the culture around it as well. Also, because of the litigation that BSV has been involved in for the last couple of years, that's something that would have stuck out to him too, and called to his expertise. So just guessing, yeah, RFK probably has a better idea, and Trump likely does not, just simply because of their styles. So those are my thoughts, and I'm sticking to them. We are 3 minutes late, which is how we know it's the CoinGeek Weekly live stream. So I'm Kurt Wooker Jr. reminding you, please, everybody, be good to each other. There really isn't a reason to do almost anything if we're not going to ultimately thrive because of it someday. Maybe not right now, but in at some point in the future. This is why we invest. And by invest, I don't mean buy a token and sit on it, but I mean do that diligent work. Put that work into the people that matter. Put the work into your family and friends and colleagues, your neighborhood, your church, or other civic organizations. And if we all decide to be good to each other, well, the whole world becomes a gooder place. I just said that on the air. Please don't make a clip out of this. So please, again, be good to each other, and don't edit me to look like a fool, because that wouldn't be very nice. So thanks, everybody. I will see you next week. We will be live again next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the CoinGeek Weekly live stream. Thank you to Champions TCG. Please reach out, Mr. I think it was Zap that won the thing. Maybe it wasn't. No, it was Wu Tao. Reach out to Costly Signals on X. And we're going to make the world a gooder place. That's what we're ending it. That's it. We're done. Goodbye, everybody.